Hey, the boss has been back in the private residence tweeting up a storm. It looks like he wants to move past the brouhaha over what he said in Helsinki. Do you think that most people are accepting his clarification that he misspoke?
What the president is saying, that it's a matter of wouldn't instead of would. But I think what's very important is everything that President Putin and President Trump did cover. The media only talks about meddling in the election, and the president has said he accepts the findings of his intelligence community, his intelligence professionals, and that he has full faith in the intelligence community. At the same time, there are so many different issues that these two presidents addressed. They talked about North Korea, Iran, Israel, Syria, Ukraine, the Middle East, nuclear proliferation. When the media talk about the Supreme Court, they only talk about abortion. When they talk about Russia and the U.S., they only talk about election meddling.
Right.
And yet we have faith in the American people, who is our ultimate audience, to listen to everything this president is saying. You know, there's a Russia expert at NYU who says that he did not, Mr. Cohen, he did not even vote for President Trump. And that President Trump has done what every American president has done for 75 years, beginning with President Eisenhower, which is go and meet with the leader of the Kremlin and see how we can avoid war. This man, and we all agree, the presidents have a duty to avoid war with Russia and others. And what President Trump was able to do is go and stand there for all to see with the leader of the Kremlin and try to find areas where we can actually work together. And there are many. But I also just want to point out that on October 18th, 2016, right in the Rose Garden over here at the White House, President Obama was basically laughing out loud and deriding the idea that you can have a, quote, rigged election, said it's not even possible, it's all decentralized, and that he recommends that Mr. Trump go out and convince people to vote for him. And we did exactly that. Thanks for the advice. After President Trump won, all of a sudden, the Obama administration was all stirred up and exercised about Russian meddling. And then, I believe it was in the press briefing room, President Obama then said, well, what were we supposed to do? Thump our chest and go and confront Putin? And he said, quote, Putin denies it. And, so I really think people have to look at everything that's happening here. This president just came off a very successful trip. It started out at NATO, where he got them to pony up $44 billion in dues for the common defense, and with the promise of hundreds of billions of dollars more. This is unprecedented. That's why NATO Secretary Stoltenberg thanked the president for his leadership. Then he went over to the UK to reaffirm our alliance. And then, of course, with President Putin. But people should look at what the president said yesterday, that he stands with intelligence, he accepts the finding, he knows that Russia meddled in the election. But let's make very clear, did it impact a single vote? No. Did it swing an election? No. And we were promised collusion. We were promised that it affected the election. Nobody has any of that evidence.
But Kellyanne, let's talk about what Democrats are demanding, something that I don't think the president would be shy about, and that is for the Secretary of State to go to Capitol Hill and explain what took place. We don't know what happened in the bilateral session. We don't know what happened in the 2 hours behind closed doors. When will we find that out? And the Secretary of State has, I understand, agreed to do that.
Yeah, why not? Well, why shouldn't he go? In other words, sure, he can share the many different issues that Putin and President Trump discussed together, and the president highlighted a number of them yesterday: nuclear proliferation, humanitarian aid for Syria, with what is a humanitarian crisis. And it's this president, not his predecessors, this president, who expelled 60 or more Russian intelligence officials. It's this president's Treasury Department that keeps on putting sanctions on Russia, and made very clear yesterday in response to a media question in the cabinet room, ladies and gentlemen, that those sanctions continue, just as the sanctions in North Korea continue.
Sure.
You can keep these sanctions, you can keep the pressure on, but still try to forge ahead on issues of the day. But this nonsense that you shouldn't even meet with the leader of the Kremlin, where were the media when other presidents did exactly that? And it's really ridiculous to not acknowledge that it's the failures of the last administration to enforce the ridiculous red line didn't happen, to whisper to a Russian official, hey, I'll have more flexibility after my next election. It's my last election. I'll have more flexibility. Got caught on a hot mic. Hillary with her ridiculous plastic red reset button. Obama with the red line. Guess what, folks? Donald Trump wasn't caught on a hot mic. He went in front of everybody and had this bilateral press conference with President Putin.
Okay.
All right, Kellyanne, Congressman Brady has said he was talking about the tax cut 2.0. Tax cut 1.0 saved a lot of money, helped a lot of families. And he's saying that 2.0 could come in September. So for all the Americans watching, they want to know what can we expect to be in this? Will you tell us the details?
Well, the most important thing that has to happen is making permanent the individual tax cuts. And why is that important? Because we already see the fruits of what happened. You're talking about millions of Americans having bonuses or raises or both. You're talking about an unemployment rate that's under 4% and a GDP that's at or above, in the future will be at or above 4% for many different quarters. The president promised that on the campaign trail. He met it within the first few months in office. You're talking about consumer confidence and manufacturing confidence and small business confidence. Everywhere I go in this country, even people who say they didn't vote for President Trump will come up to me and say, the economy is so strong, thank you so much for giving bonuses and raises, et cetera. So making permanent those individual tax cuts is important. And really the burden is often, I think here, it's also on the Democrats. They all of them voted against the tax cut the first time. They've got a second bite at the apple here. Are they going to go home and tell the people, hey, are they going to go home and tell the people, hey, not once but twice I voted against the tax cuts that are helping everybody in this country got a tax cut because we reduced the brackets for everyone, doubled that exemption, the child care tax credit, and today and this entire week, workforce development working in concert with these tax cuts and the fact that 6.7 million jobs are available, more jobs available than job seekers looking for them, so people actually have security and flexibility in their jobs to go and look for other jobs.
So let's talk about...
So it's very important to do that.
That's next on the president's agenda, but the previous president had a chance to speak at the 100th, mark the 100th birthday of Nelson Mandela over in South Africa, and he brought up politics of today, and the fact is, he says there's a lot of lying going on. Listen.
Unfortunately, too much of politics today seems to reject the very concept of objective truth. People just make stuff up. We see the utter loss of shame among political leaders where they're caught in a lie and they just double down and they lie some more. Populist movements, which, by the way, are often cynically funded by right-wing billionaires intent on reducing government constraints on their business interests.
Is George Soros is right wing?
Is he talking about President Trump?
He might as well have just called everybody irredeemable and deplorable. I thought that was very unfortunate, and I do agree with him that lots of leaders lie and double down on those lies. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. We have upwards of 30 million Americans who still don't have health insurance 8 years after Obamacare was passed. And Nancy Pelosi saying that these tax cuts are just crumbs when we all know they're real bread, real dough. So sure, lots of these people double down on lies. The new ascendant leader of the Democratic Party is being caught in all kinds of ignorant mistruths about occupation of Palestine and abolishing ICE. Let me tell you something. ICE does a fantastic job keeping us all safe. They detected 2,500 pounds of fentanyl. They are arresting people who are criminals. And this anti-law enforcement movement, the president out there on a world stage, I agree with him that he's being paid an awful lot more money than any of us can even imagine. But him, getting in there and talking about right-wing, this, that, and the other, they still don't understand what's happening is just people are taking back their governments. People are rising up and saying, you know what, I'm tired of being invisible. I'm tired of being the forgotten man or forgotten woman. And it's happening all across the globe, including here. And he did not get the last election right. His person lost miserably. Okay,
Kellyanne, a quick exit question. Yesterday when the president was talking about he had full faith in the U.S. intelligence agencies, why did John F. Kelly turn off the lights?
Well, he didn't do that. That just happened.
I read he turned off the lights.
Oh, listen, don't believe what you read. We see things that are unsourced, thinly sourced, outsourced all the time. There was an article yesterday that we all even denied it was true, and it ran anyway, but it doesn't have a single White House or senior administration official source. There are lots of folks on the outside who think they know what's going on in here. But you know what's going on in here? A great economy, security across the world, a military that's funded, tax cuts that are working, and this is success. And no, the president did make a joke about that. That hey, I have full faith in the intelligence community. The lights went out,
and the lights went
but
out.
they went back on. But it's important that he said that, and he knows how hard those men and women in the intelligence community, many of who risk their lives to give us all information and keep us safe, work, and he stands with them.
Thanks, Kellyanne.
Thank you.